I'm kind of happy that the sun is not as intense right now as it is some other Sundays, because I feel like y'all can kind of see some of the flowers and plants around me.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and get going. If anybody else pops in, I'll let them in. So today, Francine, I'm going to talk about or show the leaf rubbing thing again at
Okay,
the
good.
end, but I've kind of found a different context to put it in. And so, really just thinking about the idea. I might be talking to my dog every now and then. Go away. So,
That's okay.
No worries.
yeah, she doesn't seem to get yet when I'm talking to other people what's going on. I don't know that she's ever going to.
Well, I think you've seen my dog during the meditation sometimes when he
Hmm.
jumps. I mean, and I always get these little comments. And it's,
Yeah.
turn it off as soon as it happens, so that he's not distracting everybody. But
So, anyhow, so today, I want to talk about leaves, and then, and for the activity with the leaves, I want to talk, focus on the idea of kindness or loving kindness from the Buddhist Dharma, and then how that relates to checking in with your garden and observing your garden, but then also how that relates to checking in with people. And and also thinking about the idea of why we practice mindfulness and look at ways to get that practice in the garden, for the worth it has, or not worth, but contribution to our self-awareness and increasing our awareness and sense and experience, and practicing autonomy and cultivating a sense of accomplishment, but also while doing it slower and just slowing down, moving with the pace of the natural world more so than what we see, or what we're pressured to do in work and with, smartphones and media feeds, and just, maybe pushy family and pushy friends who want more out of us, and even ourselves pushing to try to just get too much or want to do too much and not just being in the present, and taking it, one thing at a time. And also just mindfulness for like its value and tuning out the noise. And some of these things that I'm thinking about, like accomplishment and tuning out the noise, really relate to just my experience this week. And, I'm going to share just real quick that I have, I see a therapist, and we meet virtually now, but I see her twice a week. And it's really nice just to have somebody that, to listen to me. She listens, and I pay her to listen. I came to realize that through the therapeutic work I do with the kids in groups. And but also, she doesn't just listen, she provides great objective feedback and can throw things into context that I'm not seeing. And I was talking about this sense of things feeling correct and right and in place, and just like feeling really good the other day, after completing writing the bylaws for my nonprofit, or Green Peas. It's not going to be mine much longer. Pretty soon, once the laws are adopted, it's its own entity. But I kept saying, trying to describe it and going around. I didn't feel like I was going in circles, but she said to me, she's like, David, what you're talking about, I think, is, that clearly you're aware of your feelings and you're aware of your thoughts. She was like, but quite simply, that's just accomplishment. She was like, you feel accomplished. And I was like, wow. It's like, I hadn't thought of it that way. And I've realized in communicating with some family over real estate matters, and in sharing a little bit about what I've been working on and incorporating this nonprofit, with family and friends, is that I don't have to share everything. I don't even have to share a lot with all those people. And holding back some of it's better. And knowing when to stop conversations to tune out noise and keep things simpler has been really helpful. And I told the therapist that I see, I was like, I really attribute this to mindfulness practice, either through sitting and meditating through guided meditations, or just silent meditations up in the mountains, and then deliberate walking. Just the concept, when I studied mindfulness and went through the certificate program on that I did, to have something formal under my belt. There was a whole segment on mindful walking, and I really believe all these miles that I walk every week through the forests and on top of mountains is so, so beneficial in keeping my mind, clear and clean. And so I just wanted to bring that into the context of why we sit here and why we're just to bring it into, I think all that can be done with our gardening too. And so the idea of thinking about leaves and loving kindness for me came also from the idea of checking in. And when I first started learning about therapeutic horticulture, and also when I first started working as an assistant with the adolescent IOP groups, everything always started with a check-in. And I found that I use that phrase a lot with people, and even on my little notes that I have here, I don't know, you can't read it, but I always write down, typically the phrase check in. And usually that just means I introduce myself and I explain something about either, the name of this Sunday Mindful Gardening Sangha. So I think it's important that if we put a name out there, that that we actively stay aware of why those words were chosen. And so, real quick, I want to pull up something that I took out of a book that's used by the Recovery Dharma group, which I reference a lot because it simply just puts a lot of stuff um, or elements of Buddhist practice in forms that are just so simple and accessible to me. I'm just going to share it really quick where y'all can see it, and I'll read it out where it just explains that word Sangha. So right here, it says Sangha as community, and it says it's a community of friends practicing the Dharma, which I would say is just simply, Buddhist thought or principles together in order to develop our own awareness and maintain it. The traditional definition of Sangha originally described monastic communities of ordained monks and nuns, but in many Buddhist traditions, it has evolved to include the wider spiritual community. For us, our Sangha is our community of Dharma practice. And so I wanted to bring that up, and, just as a reminder that, when we get together to meditate and talk about gardening, that it is a deliberate intention of mine that, we're creating a community within, this practice that can be very private and individual, where we work ourselves in our gardens for our own benefit. But that I think there's, definitely space here where to share that and to like have people around, and a benefit to having people around who also share that interest or that passion or however you look at it. So that's why that word Sangha is included in the name of this group. And so with the idea of checking in, I think for here, and for me a lot with friendships and family relationships lately, I've think of it as showing up, and the idea of how you show up for other people. And so this week, and thinking about leaves and kindness, the idea of showing up for people, I'm thinking about the idea of checking in with other people in your family or friends, or even maybe professional relationships every now and then, just as a deliberate little extra, just to not even to ask how they're doing. I don't care for that phrase, how are you doing? I feel like it's been used, we use this phrase so much that it may not be intended to be empty, but I think it can come out as, just kind of empty words. and then the responses are kind of automatic. So really just, thinking of ways to check in with other people that are more creative is what I had in mind. So I would say, maybe just be like, how are you? Can be very passive sometimes. And so really here today, I want to think about active ways that you can check in with other people. And that can be through meditation alone, which is going to happen with the meditation we're doing today. It could be calling somebody and pressing them for details. I did that recently with a family member who was saying things that were, you know, felt like they were coded and said in a way that there was something going on that she was having a hard time with, but wasn't just coming right out and saying it. And so she was definitely throwing some bait out there with the words she was had chosen to use in the conversation, where it was like, okay, am I going to ask what's going on beyond that, or why she's saying it that way? Um, and also, if possible, trying to like visit people sometimes. And, the other week, I made an effort to create Zoom meetings with some of my friends that I haven't been able to see or travel to visit like I normally would. Um, and I've sent some gifts to people lately. I've gotten on Amazon and just ordered some really cheap little silly things every now and then and sent them to friends just as a little pick me up. Because I know for myself, I've gotten way more comfortable with what's going on, or at least reached in some form of, I don't know if it's comfort really, but it reached some level of equilibrium. And like, where months ago with the whole pandemic and COVID and everything, seemed way more stressful. Like if it was a scale of 1 to 5, it was definitely at like 4.8 for a long time, probably at like 3 now, which is pretty comfortable. Or I don't think about it or worry about it, and I don't feel like a lot of people around me are either, but the stress is still real in there and the danger is still out there. And so, I felt like sending people little gifts was a way to like, do something positive in a, time that kind of feels hard. And then specifically today, I am going to bring up writing letters a little bit later, because my uncle's mom passed away last week. And I was looking at Facebook and how other family members and people were sending condolences to him in Facebook posts, or in response or comments on Facebook posts. And didn't want to do it. I thought about it, and let's see, something happened. I thought about comment or posting on or commenting as on a Facebook post in response. But then I felt like that's not enough. That's not appropriate. And then and I was gonna call him, but then I remembered how frustrated I was. My dad actually died 6 months ago yesterday, and I got tired of answering the phone within pretty quickly within the days after and the weeks after. And so I thought to myself, I'm going to write him a letter, and I'm going to show y'all how I'm going to prepare for that letter in a minute. But on that note, one more thing just before we move to the meditation. I was going to say that we can also show up and check in with our gardens. And so when we talk about leaves in just a little bit, or I talk about leaves, I'm going to be talking about observing them, which is a very simple kind of first step in mindfulness practice, just using the eyes and taking in everything that's around you and seeing what your plants are saying to you with how they look. And so we're going to talk about what you can determine about plant's health from its leaves and nutrient deficiencies that are being communicated by what's happening with the observation of the leaves. So it's a grounding practice using sight and color, and slowing down to really look closely and not just see a world of just see it as all green. I had a conversation with a friend last week over lunch where I talked about how I feel like you can, when you go into the forest long enough, you can look at it and all of a sudden you see the whole rainbow in all the shades of green, because there's just so many different ones. Like you can see the greens that look more blue, greens that look more purple, greens that look more red. And so it's those sort of subtleties that you've got to like be able to dial back and slow down to take in. So we'll look at that on a chart. But before we start our meditation, I'm going to share the screen one more time, just for another excerpt from that same book about the idea of loving kindness in the Buddhist thought. And if I was going to ask if anybody would be willing to read one of the paragraphs, if you can see it well enough. If you can't, I will just read both of them. But if one of y'all or both of y'all can see it, once I've got it shared, just speak up and go for it. If not, I'll do it, and I can make it a little bit bigger.
What page?
You know, I actually don't know the page number because I cut this out and scanned it. I was
Okay.
making a collage. Can either of y'all see that? If not, I can read it.
I think I can read it.
I can see it and read it too. So totally.
Okay, well, somebody take the first paragraph.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I'll take the first. Starting with the third heart, is that what you're talking about, David?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
The third heart practice is loving kindness, also known as metta. These are thoughts that are free from ill will, simply wishing that somebody else be happy, that they be well and free from suffering. It's the choice to include the well-being of everyone in how we act in the world. Metta isn't conditional. It isn't something we offer only to people we like. We can have concern and care even when we're feeling our own pain. We can bring metta to mind when we're faced with difficulty or torn by conflicting feelings about the conditions of life at the moment. Metta doesn't depend on people acting in a certain way, on our feeling a certain way in the moment, or on the result of our caring. It frees us from only caring about the well-being of others when we think it will lead to some outcome. With metta, we don't ask the question, will it do any good to care about this person's well-being?
Thank you.
This means that how we think about another person isn't based on their behavior or even on the other person at all. How we think about a person is up to us. And if it is shaped by the practice of metta, then we can care about every person's well-being, the most difficult and unpleasant people we know. We can honestly hope that everyone finds a way to be happy without causing harm. Wishing the goodwill towards others frees us from the reactivity and anger that come when we focus on this person's behavior or when we think they ought to do. We can begin to sit in the suffering and pain that somebody experiences as a result of their actions and cause about their pain, even if it might also lead to pain for us, for others. Our wish is that all beings are free from pain and suffering, that they escape hatred and fear, that they are at ease and they find happiness.
Thanks. So I just wanted to put that out there for us to read and we can think about it. Or not, it's up to you. But I'm going to go ahead now and start our meditation. So I'm going to mute my microphone right after I get that going. And it is a loving kindness meditation I think it's about 13 minutes or 14 minutes. And I've got it from Insight Timer as usual. And I hope y'all enjoy it. And, oh, wait. Share the sound. All right.
Find a comfortable sitting position with an upright posture and your feet flat on the ground. place your hands on your lap or your right hand on top of your left. Gently close your eyes, relax, and breathe naturally. Focus on your breath. I'd like you to start by focusing on the point where the breath begins. That could be at the tip of your nose, your nostrils, or your lips. Where do you feel it when you breathe out? I want you to focus on that. Simply focus on breathing in and breathing out. I'm going to leave you for a few minutes so you can practice gently listening to your breath. Thoughts may come and go. That's natural and completely normal. If you find yourself drifting into thought, gently bring yourself back to your breath. Relax your body and completely let go. Bringing a gentle smile to your face can help you relax and stay calm. Practicing mindfulness is about being in the right here and now. Your past is gone and your future hasn't happened. Focus on letting go, relaxing, in your current presence. Simply focus on your breathing. Breathing in and breathing out. Continue to focus on your breath as we move our focus onto your body. Just simply observe. Observe what's going on for you at this moment. Can you feel any sensations, any tingles as you breathe? As you observe, relax deeper into every breath. Remember, if your mind drifts into thought, it's okay. Just bring yourself back into your breath. And just observe what your body's doing for the next few minutes. Remember, no judgment, no to-do lists. If you're feeling any tension or any pain, just breathe into that and let it go. Just allow your body to let that go. Continue to focus on your breath and observing your body. As we gently move on to practicing loving kindness, it is so important in times like this to practice love, kindness, compassion, non-judgment towards ourselves and towards others. So I'd like you to repeat this in your mind, starting with yourself. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free from anger. May I be free from hatred. May I be free from envy. May I be free from suffering. May I maintain my well-being. And may I attain spiritual bliss. And without attaching to anyone, to a particular person or thing, let's extend this to loved ones. May they be well. May they be happy. May they be peaceful. May they be free from anger. May they be free from hatred. And may they be free from envy. May they be free from suffering. May they maintain well-being. And may they attain spiritual bliss. Let's now extend this to people we don't get on with and neutral people in our lives. Again, let's not focus on anyone or attach to anything. May they be well. May they be happy. May they be peaceful. May they be free from anger. May they be free from hatred. May they be free from envy. May they be free from suffering. May they maintain well-being. And may they attain spiritual bliss. Now let's extend this to the rest of the world, to every single living being. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free from anger. May all beings be free from hatred. May all beings be free from envy. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings maintain well-being. And may all beings attain spiritual bliss. Take a lovely, heart-warming, big breath in. And release. your beautiful day fresh, positive, full of life. Have an amazing day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. And as always, be great, be fantastic, and be absolutely phenomenal today. And when you're ready, gently come back to the room and open your eyes.
That was lovely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that was quite nice.
Yeah, I really like that one. I like the person's voice, and one of the things that I really appreciated, I noticed, was that when it was or just the phrase "people you don't get along with," like I like that. I was curious if anybody, just in the part where you talked about sensations or tensions, if either of y'all noticed anything like that, along those lines, just because I realized sitting out here in this chair today, and it's something I've come to realize over the past few weeks, is that I have a tendency when I sit for meditation to sit to the right in the chair and to cramp my right arm and hand in a way where I always seem to end up realizing I'm really uncomfortable, and then I'm like trying to get to the middle of the chair and relax my right wrist. Kind of strange. So now for just our little garden aspect of this and the leaves, I'm going to share, well, I want to just talk about leaves, and when we talked about leaves the last time and I showed the leaf rubbing, I did kind of an overview of plants that I have in my collection that are, they were almost, I think all of them were here for just ornamental reasons, but it was really just a survey of everything in my garden that I have because it has awesome foliage. Some of them have awesome foliage and awesome flowers too. But they really were things that I put in to stand out in contrast with the predominant green, and to offer other colors and different textures and combinations of textures. But today I wanted to think just about what leaves do, and what we can do to help out plants. And so leaves, they're pretty awesome. And in the context of like kindness, if you want to think of, give that characteristic to plants and leaves, or leaves specifically, that they make food. They make food for plants, which in turn makes food for us. Even if you were a person who was just like a meat eater, all those animals that we eat that eat meat also, typically survive on plants. Plants are the very, bottom producers in all food chains on the world, or food webs. So leaves really, really matter. And they give us shade. They, they give us a break from the heat, especially, we're all in the South and it can get pretty extreme here. I'm under a tree, but I'm at in the mornings at the angle where I am, the sun comes right in here, and I actually hung up fabric over this, I don't know what you call this thing I'm sitting under. It used to have a cover on it, but I need to replace it. But I draped fabric over it today to block the sun because I wanted the shade that I don't have from the leaves until a little bit later. Leaves are awesome too because they clean our air. Then not just cleaning it, they give us what we have to breathe. They also regulate temperatures in entire regions and ecosystems and little microbiomes. If you go into the forest, it's always going to feel a little bit better than it's going to feel in the city. My mom got a new car recently, and she's she's started sharing a lot about how her new car tells her the temperature outside. And, so she points out to me pretty frequently that there's like a 5 or 6 degree difference in the temperature where she works in West Knoxville compared to where we live, just, about, I guess, about 6 miles away, where it's all forested and farmland. And so, that's important. And, trees also within the forest, they serve a pretty awesome purpose for each other. They support each other, they keep the temperatures cool and more tolerable. They keep the ground shaded and moist, which helps because they have to have water. So they're help regulating their own, uh, well, they regulate humidity, but what's the word I'm trying to say? Their hydration. Um, but also, so far as a forest standing together and all the leaves on the trees in the middle of the summer, and late summer when we get into like tropical storm and hurricane seasons, and just season for afternoon thunderstorms, when winds get harsh, deciduous trees are more prone to damage and breaking and falling. But a forest that stands together buffers all of that for each other. So all of that really works together. And so a tree that's standing with a group is going to be stronger than a tree standing alone. And that's because of the leaves, this time of year. In the winter, it's kind of a different situation where I have a book here that I love. I brought it out because a lot of my thinking comes straight from it. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's The Hidden Life of Trees. It's an awesome book. Um, and I'm talking directly from it when I talk about forests and some of that stuff I've learned. And, in the winter, when the deciduous trees don't have their leaves, they actually don't have that risk of damage from wind. But then all the conifers do. So anyhow, looking at leaves, I'm going to share a picture really quick, because I was walking around my garden the other day, and observing my tomato plants. And some people, I've seen similar looking tomato plants and plant care groups on Facebook where people are worried about their plants, and worried because of the way the leaves look. And with my tomato plants, I can tell you that they do not look like, show like they're ready for a gorgeous like show or a garden tour. But it's because of the time of year, and it's because of how early they were planted. I planted my tomatoes in this one bed at the very beginning of May. So, they're 3 months old now. And as they grow, the older leaves, especially the tomato plants that produce the larger tomatoes, so like my early girl plants, they're loaded with fruits. And those fruits get filled with sugars that are made in the leaves that have to translocate within the plant's vascular tissue from the leaf into the tomato. And what that causes is dieback of some of the older leaves. And that's just a normal progression in their life cycle. And I've noticed a lot of people stressing when they see leaves turn brown and die on their tomatoes or their veggies or some, annual plants, whether it's vegetable or ornamental. And that's just part of the life cycle that happens for those plants over summer because they're annuals, they're not meant to live forever. Some of the leaves are gonna come and be there for a little while, then they're gone forever. As in that form, they're gonna end up, composted somehow, hopefully, and just contributing back to the environment. But then there's signs, there's leaves that are turning yellow, and typically they turn yellow before they turn brown to die off as the sugars are moving out. But then there's other signs that can happen on your plants, and that's what I'm going to share now, where we start to see other colors or different patterns. So I'm going to share this real quick. Let's see. So right here is a kind of a simpler chart. Y'all let me know if you can see that. It's just called a simple guide to plant deficiencies. And so what it does, I first saw charts like this when I took an overview of plant sciences or intro to plant sciences. It was, I don't know why I recall this, but it was called PS 210. And they shared this
Hey,
chart.
David, I'm just seeing the file explorer. I see the nutrient chart, but
Oh, huh.
but I
Oh,
can't
okay.
see just.
I
You
know
might
what I
need to
did
share.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to actually click on that. Now do you see it?
Yeah, there we go.
That's
Okay.
better.
Okay, yeah. So that's the simplest chart, and this focuses on um, the um, the basic 3 macronutrients and a couple of micronutrients. Your macronutrients are NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Okay, and so they're all on there. On this chart, it says phosphate rather than phosphorus. So I'm just going to read what it says. So with nitrogen deficiency, you'll notice that leaves are light green. It says upper leaves are light green, where lower leaves are yellow, and that's typically true. Bottom leaves are older yellow and shriveled. That is not completely a fair indicator because, like I said, sometimes on like an annual plant, the leaves are just going to die off. But if you're seeing this on a shrub, um, then that's an issue. So when this happens, you'd want to think about, how to correct that or balance that with fertilizers. And so you'd think about those, not like the N, P, and K, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and the numbers that you see on fertilizers that you buy. There's always typically 3 numbers that are prominent. Sometimes they're not prominent anymore, and you got to look on the back and read the labels depending on the product, because especially with, I'm going to say, with if you're buying organic fertilizers, the organic appeal is so strong for people that the marketing doesn't put those chemical details right up front. They're usually going to be on the back side, as opposed to like if you're buying like, just if you're going to like a farmer's co-op and getting stuff, or like a greenhouse or seed supply place, and you're buying just straight up, non-organic chemical fertilizers, those numbers are probably going to be as big as my hands. So if it is a nitrogen deficiency, you want that first number to be higher. If it's phosphorus, that's going to be leaves that are kind of darker than normal, and sometimes a loss of leaves or not many leaves. On the next chart I'm going to show that goes even further with micronutrients, I believe it's phosphorus too. If it's a lack of phosphorus, you might see that the leaves are more purple than they should be. That happens a lot in sprouting young tomato plants that are growing in potting media that's mostly peat moss, where the stems and the leaves are very purple. And actually that beginning purple of the stage is kind of normal for tomatoes anyhow. But if it goes on longer as they continue to grow, it's because they need more phosphorus. And so then with potassium, you'll see like yellowing around the edges or at the tips of leaves. Botanically, we would call the edges the margins. So it'd be yellow at the leaf margins. And then the tip, we'd say the leaf apex. And that's usually going to happen in younger leaves. And sometimes there might just be like, it might be patchy yellow spots. Also, this is not on this chart with a nitrogen deficiency. Sometimes you'll notice yellowing between the veins. That can be attributed to nitrogen and iron, which is on this chart. Now I'm going to switch and go, I'm going to try to go, let's see if I can get this right, to the other chart. This is actually a chart that was shared in Plant Sciences 210, and then again by, can y'all see that one, the new one?
Yeah.
Okay. So this one, they used it in the Intro Plant Sciences course that I took, and they used it in a nursery production course. So, the researchers and scientists are advocating the information on this chart. But if you try to find this chart online, it at some point got shared to Pinterest, and like is in what I consider Pinterest lockdown, where you find images sometimes of great information, and I just know this from, educational stuff and looking for charts for different things or worksheets. Sometimes stuff ends up on Pinterest and it is impossible to get a copy of it. It's large enough to read and share because it's digitally been locked down to be little on Pinterest, and when it blows up, it gets pixelated and awful. But I spent some time and was able to find this on an ag website for a university. But I really like this one. One of the things I really like about it is, it does show micronutrients too, and more of them than the last chart. But I really love the graphic in the center. And I'm going to share this on Facebook too. I'll post it after this. But I really, really love it for the graphic and kind of just artistic quality of it. I like the design because it kind of really has an exaggerated or more exaggerated form of the discolorations and the variations you can see based on the different deficiencies. And that's where, when it comes into the idea again of showing the leaf rubbing, why I felt like it could apply here again. Because what I was going to advocate is, that you possibly consider, if you have the time, the paper, and the pencils, you could make one of these charts for yourself based off of this one here, just by learning to mindfully use your colored pencils and to go in the correct order of working from light to dark to be able to mimic some of these things, or from the margin of the leaf to the veins and then the midrib, or the midrib through the veins to the margins throughout the process of coloring, depending on where you need to have light or dark colors. So I'll just show right here examples of you've seen some of these already, Mary, from the last time I showed them. Here's some ferns that I did. And then here are some of the leaves cut out, because I started working on a project where I was cutting out these leaves, and I collected leaves from around my garden and from around the house where property that was my grandmother's, um, where I got to play a lot and explore the woods growing up, and where my dad grew up. And I wanted to make some sort of, I wanted to just go through a process of like making these leaf rubbings where I was present in the moment, engaging with nature by looking closely at leaves and observing them, giving the brain a chance to restore by engaging, that engages in voluntary attention and triggers fascination, which really balances out stress that you feel in your brain from continued directed attention, which could be through work, and just focusing on constant reading or getting projects done. It could also be from anxiety and from stress, ruminating. This is one of my favorites.
I'm not hearing you.
Do
I can't hear you.
I?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure what happened.
I think you put it when you, sometimes it covers the microphone.
Oh, that's probably it. Okay, so these are osmanthus leaves, and I was trying to be true to the color of some of them that were turning and getting yellow, and then so what I was going to suggest in relationship to, or in relation to this idea of, looking at leaves for the purpose of diagnosing nutrient deficiencies, or looking at them for, or considering, acts of loving kindness that could be done for people too, so kindness towards your plants and kindness towards people. to be making a rubbing. For the plants, you know, I am suggesting that I'm going to take this leaf, actually, I'll hold this up where you can see, and I'm going to lift up one sheet of paper. This is just really, really generic, basic sketch paper. I'll show you the front of the pad. This is what I usually buy. Any store that has an art supply aisle, Walmart, Target, an art store, Michael's Arts and Crafts, or Joann, any of those kind of places. What's that one place? AC Moore, if that still exists. I don't even know. I never go shopping anymore. I just get everything online. So I'm going to lift one sheet of paper to begin with. It's just going to be the one the rubbing goes on. And then I'm going to take a leaf. This is a salvia leaf, which is in the sage family. It's from an ornamental sage that is over here to the left of me. I don't know if y'all can make it out. It's got blue flowers on it right here. It's called the black and blue salvia. I love it. It's a perennial so long as our winters don't get too frigid cold for too long. If the cold is extended for too long, it can kill the tubers of this zone. But we haven't had extended freezing for a long time, and I don't imagine we ever will. But for a long time. But anyhow, so and I have that around for hummingbirds. So I've got the leaf. I've put it on the sheet of paper below, and I've got it unfolded back, the one that I'm going to do the rubbing on. And this is going to be a little bit different than if it were on the table. I'm going to hold it like this, where I've got one finger from my left hand on the petiole, which is the stem of the leaf, which is connected to the middle vein, which is botanically referred to as the midrib. And I'm going to hold tight to that right now with this one finger because I want to try to keep it from moving. And if I were drawing flat, I would actually have it, my hand like this, and I probably have another finger. I'm going to adjust this a little. Probably have another finger at the tip to try to keep it from moving. And I always encourage, whoever I'm working with when I teach doing these rubbings, to feel it first under the paper, so just where all the ribs are, what the edges feel like. This has the margins of this leaf are serrated and have kind of like a sawtooth look to them, and you can actually feel that. And that is also just can be like a grounding mindful practice if you're around stressed people. You can teach them how to do a leaf rubbing to calm their anxiety. And so that's just engaging touch. With this plant too, because it's in the sage family, the leaves do have kind of a pretty strong scent that comes from oils that are in the leaf. So you get to actually smell it as you start the rubbing and go through it. What I want to do is I'm going to hold the pencil. If we were doing this flat, I would be holding the pencil like this, just kind of parallel to the paper as much as possible, because you want to use the flatter edge of the pencil to make the rubbing. You don't ever want to use the point. The point makes lines and it dents in, impresses into the paper and creates like a dent. You don't want that. You want it to be smooth. And I'm going to start with this one by working in the center along the midrib of it, and then working my way out. And it's going to be really subtle at first. I'm going to try to scoot up. You probably can't even see it yet on y'all's end. I'm slowly working my way out, and I'm going to work on one side. So I've got to come at it with the pencil from one side of it, and then I'm going to flip it and then do the other side, because the angle, the angle matters, and then the direction that you're coming into the leaf to do this. Now my leaf is shifting because I'm moving this around, so it's not going to come out with a crystal clear imprint, or because I'm, that just shifted a lot. Since I'm working, on video with the camera in front of me rather than over, it's not going to be quite perfect. Okay. Actually, I think I could do better at this. I'm going to move this down. I'm going to move it down here to the bottom of the pad where I can like hold on tighter. So I'm going to start that
Hey,
again.
David,
Yeah.
if I can interrupt you just a second, you've got the chart still up. Do you want that still
Oh,
up?
no, I'm sorry. I forgot to change that.
It's okay.
There you go. Sorry, y'all. So good. You missed me
Much
failing
better.
at the initial rubbing. Okay, there you go. That works for me. So I've got so what I did is I lifted up the sheet of paper, put the leaf under it. Here, I'll just start over. That'll be easier. So now that I know y'all didn't see any of that, I'll show you the pad again. This is the paper that I'm using. It's Canson brand, and it's a recycled paper. You can even use paper from like a printer if you want. Okay, so I lift up one sheet like this. I intentionally try to pick a leaf that has a pretty thick texture and feels a little bit tough. This was also just right next to me, which is part of why I grabbed it. Oops. So I'm going to flip that sheet of paper back. I'm going to hold on to that petiole with my left hand finger here. Ideally, if I were at a table, I'd have a finger on the petiole and one at the apex of the leaf to keep both ends stationary. I'm going to work with the pencil up that midrib towards the tip. And this is how I do like the leaf with the rainbow. And then I'm going to work on one half like that, starting at the bottom and just carefully working up. And you'll start to see the veins reveal themselves. And when I go to a darker color, y'all will be able to see this probably quite a bit better. And I'm going to try from the other side. I had the pencil over here this direction. Now I'm intentionally going to move it that way. And this is, something that came from just mindful observation and being in the moment and working on this practice is that, you got to switch back and forth patiently from one side to the other and use your tools right, well, effectively. I won't say right, that's a judgment. Effectively is kind of a judgment too, but I'm going to say that one's okay. And then now I'm going to switch to blue. And with the blue, I'm going to actually start to work. Before I started from the inside and worked outward, now I'm going to start from the outside. And I'm holding the pencil flat to the paper as much as possible. And I'm going to start, and because we're outside, I can really see where the edges are pretty well. And I'm going to start from the edge and work my way around. And then switch to the other side. Now, I will admit this is a little bit awkward. It's really awesome, though, because this, I don't know if either of y'all have ever been around, pineapple sage. I mean, also just plain old, common sage. Salvia officinalis is pretty awesome, I mean, that's an awesome plant, too. But right now, because of how close this is to my face and because I'm applying this pressure and rubbing it and creating heat, I can smell the fruity smell, and it smells very similar to pineapple sage. So this is also a reason why when I was studying therapeutic horticulture and working, I would do this sometimes with mental health groups, but also with seniors with Alzheimer's and dementia as a mindful activity where, you got to touch and feel and engage the senses of sight and smell. Because smell with people who are experiencing memory loss, well, really just with all people, can trigger a flood of things just to come back. I mean, and especially if you're doing sage, there were people that would suddenly just remember Thanksgiving and start talking about Thanksgiving, which is kind of, it's pretty awesome that our brains can work like that.
I love that
And
idea.
oh, it's great.
That's
Mary,
awesome.
I don't know if I've ever told y'all, but for quite a few years when I still worked with UT Gardens, I worked with Alzheimer's Tennessee daycare group, and I worked with several of this assisted living facilities in town. Or did I say endless facilities, assisted living facilities. This is some real multitasking here. This is not mindful. This is too many things at once. But
You're doing
yeah,
great.
so anyhow, when I worked with assisted living facilities, I adored it. I absolutely, my favorite day of the week was the Wednesday mornings that I got to go to the work with the Alzheimer's Tennessee Howard Circle of Friends over in East Knoxville. I adored it. These people, there's this one lady, she was 102, and she was just there for like literally just for babysitting services. No dementia, no Alzheimer's or anything. She had been like a school teacher for like 80 something years, or not 80, but like 70 something years. And she was just, she was amazing. I adored hanging out with those people. I mean, all of them were just cute, but the triggering of the memories was amazing. But it's just like a way to ground and de-stress. This activity, you get accomplishment. I mean, you get grounding the senses, like I said, and then you have something left over. I'm going to take my red now and bring the red into the center here. And I'm holding it flat still, but slightly going up to concentrate on a narrower area so I can get it just where I want, because I want it on that midrib. So I want it to be kind of brighter. I don't want to lose all the yellow ribs I already created. Oops, and now see, if you don't hold the pencil right, really fat, you can end up making lines. That's kind of what I didn't want, or streaks. But now I got it flat again, just creating like a little warm space in here. And then go to the other side of the midrib and get in there. Try to blend away some of where that has disappeared. And you'll start to see how it creates other colors as the different ones blend together. Then I'm going to bring into this, it really does smell amazing. And I wore this on purpose to coordinate. And now I'm going to take, this is a violet blue color that's deeper than this other, the other blue I use. They, actually this color pencil set calls it true blue. I think it's more cerulean and what I would refer to as a warm blue. Now I'm going to try to keep it flat, but stay just near the tip of the pencil and just darken the edge to really highlight that serrated margin. But the thing is because of the way that I'm holding this, it has shifted a few times. So I'm not getting a really sharp detail like I would if I had this flat on the table around the edge, but it still looks pretty damn neat. Pardon me. So there's that. So there's a little, that's it. That's what I just did. Can y'all see it?
Yes, it's very cool. I like it.
Awesome. So now, what I'm going to do with this actually, I said that my uncle died. So right here, one thing I'm going to do, because this is another way if you want to take this from being like therapeutic or memory triggering or just a grounding exercise for yourself or just, exercising creativity or actually passively, that's all in there. No matter how you go about it, whether you intend to or not, there's going to be all that stuff passively happening. I'm going to label this with the botanical name right here, kind of small. And then the cultivar, black and blue. And then up here, I'm going to put today's date. And then I'm going to write, Dear Sammy. And after we're done, I'm writing my condolence to my uncle on this. So this is an act of loving kindness too. So other thing you can do is look at that chart online and you can make your own nutrient deficiency chart using these methods. It's just a matter of the order in which you do it. So like if you were looking at one of the leaves that was yellow with like dark veins, you'd start with yellow all over and then go in and just delicately put the yellow or the darker green over the veins. Or, you know, I can demonstrate the opposite of that. Like, let's say if you had a leaf that, if you wanted to do the deficiency where like it's like yellow veins and then, you know, green between the veins, it could be like, you'd start with, well, I would start by putting yellow really hard onto the vein and around the edges. And you'll notice too, you know, one of the things that why I say this is a mindful practice, I think all creation of art and gardening and anything where you're creating and building stuff is inherently mindful, is that, you know, most of the time if you're just sloppy about it, it's not gonna be effective. And you start to notice like best practices on your own by taking it slow as you go through. So like I was able, you know, to just do this a lot quicker and move the pencil certain ways. So, you know, and if I want to, you know, go in between the veins green, I will literally just hold this pencil and work kind of from the center outward, but only going back and forth right between the veins that I can now see. So that I'm leaving that initial yellow I put in, and you can practice with it, you know, and see how you can shift the pencil to fill up closer to the vein. And then last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the edge and make the edge green. And if you're like, you know, some people get easily agitated, some people are quite perfectionists, you know, in their tendencies and want it to be right the first time. And, you know, there's no right with this. I mean, there can be a right if you define that and set that expectation up in your head, but I'm careful with what kind of expectations I set in life because, you know, a lot of expectations are just guaranteed disappointments. And, you know, it doesn't, you know, and you can do this over and over and over. So, green margins, green between the veins. So, you know, if I went back to the chart, I could tell you which micronutrient deficiency might cause that because I don't remember right off the top of my head. But anyhow, so that's that. That's what I have for you today. So if you want, you know, you can
Totally cool.
make some original artwork, make some stationery, you know, make some artistic guides to caring for your vegetable plants and what you need in your fertilizer to share with your friends for Christmas or anytime or whatever. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Very cool. While we're talking tomato,
Yes. What's going on with your tomato?
do you see it's all curled up?
Yeah. Is it dry? Does it feel crispy, or is it feel soft?
It's soft, but a little crispy, but pretty soft still.
Yeah. The curling could just be coming from, it could be coming from fluctuations in hydration. So like inconsistent water where it's drying up, but then you water and then it's got enough, but it's not unfurling again. Sometimes they,
Okay, that makes sense the way the weather's been.
yeah, if you're not, so somebody, I can't remember who was talking about this. Somebody I was listening to or watching. Um, Gosh, I wish I could remember where it was. Oh no, it wasn't. It was this book. It was this. No. Yeah, it was this. No, it wasn't this book. It was a book. This book by the same author called "The Weather Detective," and he talked about how
Mhm.
if you water your gardens or irrigate your gardens, that how much consistency is going to matter. Because if your gardens get used to you watering every day or every other day or whatever, if you break that cycle, it's going to stress them out. Or if your plants are just dependent upon just the natural rains and how that changes, you're going to see like you'll see physical um, symptoms like that, where it's been hydrated and then it's not, and so it can cause the curl and the uncurl. But then there are also sometimes pathogenic things that can cause the leaves to curl up like that. But if that were the case, you'd probably see like some major discoloration or other oddities. And if it's just green and curled, I think it's just water.
My husband will be relieved.
Oh, good. So, y'all got anything else to ask or say or share or observations or anything you're going to take away from today?
I'm gonna have fun. I'm planning on doing some leaves.
Awesome. Cool. Well,
Yeah, thanks a lot. This was good.
Hey, you're welcome, Mary. I do have one question. I recorded this today. Would either of y'all be willing to give consent for me to use a couple of clips from this to share in training with the other contractors for Smart Institute? For our after school, Smart Institute is the after school program. And I don't think I've talked about
Absolutely.
this.
Do we need to sign, or can we just verbally give it to
If you just verbally say that you're okay with me sharing this recording, because I feel like we didn't disclose. I mean, I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm an expert in plant sciences and public horticulture, but I'm not, this was not therapy, and I don't feel like anybody disclosed anything that is, could potentially be harmful, but
I'm fine with it.
cool. Yeah, if y'all are good.
Yeah, I'm used to having to have people sign and do all that stuff. So
Yeah. Well, I feel like, with this, it's just, I was put in charge of coming up with a virtual learning plan for if we went online. And so I want to be able to share this as an example of how you can go about leading an hour's worth or more of, of a lesson and different things you can do. So like the readings, the meditations, video shares, demonstrations, because I was trying to encourage want to encourage people to get creative with it and to realize also that Zoom can be a tool outside of just hosting a meeting. I've actually made instructional videos where I've hosted Zoom meetings just by myself because the recording feature of it and the still steady camera, it's pretty effective for that. So I appreciate your willingness to let me share it.
Sure.
That'll be helpful.
absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Glad to be to be able to help.
Great.
Yep.
Cool. Anything else?
No, totally enjoying it. Looking forward to playing with this, and see you next week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. I look forward to seeing y'all.
Thanks, y'all.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.